Let's begin.
Oldest family, pleasure as always to be online with you all as we try to come into the understanding and the power of how we're going to reverse the ritual that has been played up on us. And I stated yesterday, as a concern of mine, as we look at the condition that continue to proliferate itself. And I stated that when Abba Ben Ami to have us to check in with him, and Mr. King, and various ones of us, he would ask certain questions about things that are taking place within the news. And he would always say to us is that you all got to stop him. If you do not stop him, there will be no flesh left alive on this planet. But he never told us how to stop him. So I thought yesterday, as to, because I was in a class as stated on the Shabbat, and the point came up again. So I thought, based upon how we are studying, I think we have access to that answer. As a matter of fact, I put together some things, I will hold mine, but I will state exactly what I had asked yesterday. I asked the question, how do we halt or stop the destruction of the aberrant man? How do we do that? You know, so that was the question as to, and I noticed something about the aberrant man. I think many of us been kind of like, kind of repeating the term that we have heard Eitai give us, but very few of us probably have looked up the word because I'm guilty myself, and I happened to look at the word today and actually what the word aberrant really meant, and it even gave me a greater understanding. And just for those who may not have, I'll give you the definition so that we have a little bit more clarity on what we are talking about when we say the aberrant man. And the word aberrant, the etymology, is to go astray, to wander, straying from the right. Now, when I said right, I put in parentheses wholeness or normal way. So I'm saying wholeness, is the normal way, deviating from the usual or natural type. Then it says the C synonym, and it says atypical. And atypical means not typical, irregular, unusual. So I'll go on to say this is a species, person, or group whose behavior departs substantially, meaning from constructed from the standard, which is wholeness. So they are very firm and constructed in moving away from the standard of that which is whole. So that's just a little explanation as to what the aberrant man or aberrant group of people or individuals are. So I think that will help us a little bit more when we start to talking about aberrant. So Ita, that was really what I was asking. How do we stop or halt the destruction of the aberrant man on this planet?
Very good, Nasi. Toda.
Hallelujah.
All right, as we get started, as always, this has got to be a journey inward as we consider the question, Nasi.
Absolutely.
And as we consider the creation of the aberrant man, what we must understand and what is foremost and what must remain foremost in our minds is that the aberrant man is a result of something that was in us. The aberrant man comes from us. was created by us, has its genesis and its origin in us.
Great,
This is what we must understand, because
great.
the tendency is always to project outward and not inward. We must change the direction of our conception, of our thought, and adjust the direction again of our intent and attention. And we have to come to the realization sooner rather than later that this subject of the aberrant man and this journey to solve that problem is inward, is inward. Whatever the aberrant man is, it is a reflection of us, an aspect of us that needed to be corrected. This is where we must begin, because if we do not recognize the root, our solutions will only be in pruning leaves and twigs and branches. Are you all with me?
Absolutely.
We must begin there. And all of our solutions, all of our problems are internal. And the fact that the answer or the solution to a problem never goes outside of the equation of the problem itself. Every answer is within the equation of the problem. We must realize this, and we must realize that the aberrant man, the creation of the aberrant man, was a result of trying to find a solution that was internal, that had manifested itself within us. So this is where we must start. This is where we must start. And our ancestors anticipated the difficulty in that exercise, Nasi, of going inside. Because, like we stated, we are in an environment, we emanated into an environment where going inside oneself is not rewarded. It is not encouraged. It is not rewarded. And before we begin to answer the question and put form to the question, we must know the nature of the problem. The nature of the problem. And we have to make this transition in our conception. The tendency, again, is always to project outside. And we are in an environment that encourages that projection. It encourages invocation. That means calling out to God, calling outward to a higher power instead of evoking, raising up the God in you, raising up the divinity in you. And we must, you know, intellectually, Nasi, it's easy to kind of agree with that. That yeah, when you look at the Father, you look at me, and they called us gods, and Yahweh is inside of me, or whatever we say. But in reality, the uh, behaving, it's one thing to give intellectual assent to something.
Right.
It's another thing to change your behavior. Anybody that has ever gone on a diet, and a lot of us were faced with this fact of changing our diet when we came into contact with the kingdom. But in the world, when someone wants to lose weight, or they are faced with a health problem where they have to adjust their diet, they might go to the doctor, or talk to someone about the benefits of vegetarianism, or the benefits of a meatless diet, or veganism. And it's one thing, when someone talks to you about it, all of the thing, it makes sense. But conforming your behavior to what you mentally or intellectually give agreement to is two entirely different things.
Absolutely, Eitai.
And we've all faced that. And it's the same with this, because we have to realize that, again, we have been programmed to project outwardly and see problems as external to ourselves. So at this time, we must deal, again, we just have to back it up a little bit now, see, and start to properly comprehend this dualistic reality that we inhabit. And we're going to find out something, uh, some things about ourselves that might not be in the forefront of our minds. We can all agree with, yeah, we're moving towards holism, but you know, we're not there yet. So we really have to comprehend this dualistic reality. And again, in order to do that, we individually, from an individual basis, we have to go within ourselves and to identify the dualism. Because just because we know that holism is the goal, it doesn't mean that we've overcome dualism within ourselves.
No, it doesn't.
It just means that we have an intellectual understanding of what it is and where we need to go. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have started working to what? To join these things, these dualistic polarities within ourselves.
Absolutely, Eitai.
And again, our ancestors have indicated that. They've indicated that, and it's all throughout the allegory, it is all throughout the teachings. And what I want to do is draw our attention to it so that we can understand exactly where we are, and the position, and to know the position from which, now see, we are going to be attempting to what? Address this question.
Eitai, today me and Kalai were talking and about exactly what you're talking about now, that most of us, when we look at the average man, we're going to do just what you said. Rather than looking at ourselves and going within ourselves, we're going to always look outside and say it's somebody else. So
Right.
I mean, it's so perfect, what you say.
So but now see, again, this is I mean, we're in a realm where we are connected with the ancestors now. I talk to other people. It is no doubt in my mind
Right.
that we are within this vortex, and that we are walking this path. But we're going to understand that, and again, there are different paths. There are different paths, and we must realize that, because now see, if we would allow people to answer the question, like right now, it's no doubt we're going to get different answers,
Absolutely right.
and individuals are going to address it differently. So you know that's fine to a certain extent, but we must we must understand why. We must understand why that is the case, and then work from there. Because again, we have not, none of us have reached this goal of wholeness. We just have a
No.
good idea of what it is in our mind. And when we have meetings like this, Nasik, to problem solve, and then we get these different perspectives, it's a cause for what? Conflict and controversy and enmity.
Yeah,
And so when that's present, we know that we haven't reached our goal of what? Wholeness. Because
that's right.
if we had, everybody would have the same answer.
Absolutely.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean, Nasik and family, that because you have a different answer, it does not mean that you are not connected with the ancestors. It doesn't mean that the ancestors are not speaking to you, but it means that you are not hearing the same thing. It's a difference, Nasik.
There you go. There you go.
It's a difference. It means
That's
that
right.
you are perceiving and or translating and or interpreting what the ancestors are saying to you based on the uh, the position that you're in on the path.
There you go. Right.
Is
Yeah,
everybody with me?
that's
Yeah.
clear to me.
Eitai,
Uh-huh.
I had to sneak out right quick. I need to ask the question while you are discussing this. It's just a question for myself. What is emanation? I need to know how I emanated in here. I need to know what is that. We talk about emanation. What is that?
Nazar, we're going to address that in greater detail. That's a great question. We're going to
Okay,
address that and add and expand on our knowledge of that through the course of the class. So we're recording
okay,
everything,
okay,
and we're
okay,
we're going to address that. That's a good question. Excellent
okay. All
question.
right. Tell that.
All right.
Okay.
Because
All right.
I see, everyone has not even accepted that,
Right. Right. You're right.
or has fully, not because they don't want, but not they have not fully understood that.
Right.
So they and they have not come to a realization of who and what they are. So that's a great question, and we're going to address that. So because again, we get different answers, we give different answers. It's not actually a cause for controversy or enmity or conflict. It just is a way of letting us know where we're at, where we each are at, on this particular journey. All right. And this was addressed perfectly in the book of John, the 12th chapter. And everything that we're going to hear in verses 23 through 33, which is what we're going to focus on, and even beyond that, is a major subject of what it is that we are covering. It is a major element, a major topic, a major theme within the framework of what it is that we're addressing now. So I'm going to read from verse 23. This is the book of John, the 12th chapter, verses 23 through 33. And Jesus answered them, saying, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Verily, verily, I say unto you. Listen, this is very important, and we're going to uh, uh, circle back to this in the course of what we're doing today. Listen very carefully to this. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone, meaning it remains separated. Are you all hearing me?
Absolutely.
It has its own opinion. It has its own perspective and point of view. It remains separated. But if it die, listen, if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Now, here we are, mostly Hebrew Israelites on this call, right? We've identified with that. And this subject of death and dying is a sore subject.
It's a sore subject.
Sore subject.
Yes.
And it's so bad, it's gotten so bad that you can say to somebody in the kingdom, I love you to death. And automatically, oh no, brother, don't use the word death. And
Right.
and they we just become so sensitive and superstitious about this term that
Mm-hmm.
you ignore what I'm saying to you, that I love you, man. I love you, sister. You gonna ignore that, speed right past that, and correct me for saying to death and not understanding. See, now
Right.
see, I could say, what's the difference in saying, let's flip this around. What's the difference of me threatening a brother and saying, nigga, I'm gonna choke the life out of you,
Right, right, right,
or
right,
or
Mhm.
or I'm gonna
Right.
choke you to death? It's the same thing.
right, right,
I mean the same thing, but you want me, when it's flipped, to say I love you to life.
right.
See, now if that's not dualism, if
Right.
see,
Right.
if that's not dualism, I don't know what is. You think that me choking the life out of you is gonna be better than me choking you to death? Then you deserve to be choked.
Come on, Nita.
Oh
All right,
boy.
Moray.
See,
Uh,
family, we gotta get over ourselves and these false
Yes.
misconceptions.
Yes.
Let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you something. Our ancestors that emanated in here and left the teachings for us, they only focused on a few subjects, a few major topics. The one was astrology and astronomy, the study of the stars. The other was the study of the alchemy, or the inner constellation of the human body, of the human temple. Are you all with me?
Yes.
yeah.
The other was the subject of death and the afterlife. This is why the major book that the Egyptians wrote, and they were individuals that lived during this golden age. It's called the Book of Death, not the Book of Life, the Book of the Dead.
Right.
And their focus was on the underworld. This aspect of heaven above is a much later um, much later concept. Now, see, when we move into the age of light,
Right, right, right,
are y'all
right.
hearing me? And it moved the underworld. They were referring to something that was inside of all of us. And death had another meaning. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
term that meant transition. Da'ath is the knowledge of the transition from what? Light to darkness. Da'at, death. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all hearing me?
That's
So we have to remove, we have to admit that we have a wrong conception. And when we read scriptures like this that says, except a corn of wheat, that is a seed, fall into the ground and die. See, automatically, our programming tells us that that don't mean die.
that don't mean that.
And so what we do is remove it from its contextual meaning, which means like to die, like a seed dies.
Right.
Go into the earth, to go inside of the earth, and what? Begin to decompose.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Family, death means death.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to let go of that false connotation and conception that we have. Are y'all with me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because we'll never know how to approach this problem if we hung up on death like that. Verily I say unto you, except a corn of wheat, that is a seed, fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Keep that in mind. Like I said, we're going to circle back to this. Listen, y'all. He that loveth his life shall lose it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose it anyway. And he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto eternal life. I want you all to look very closely. This is describing two different mental states and perceptions. Individuals that are still remain under the age of light and that knowledge will continue to love their life and hold on to it.
That's so absolute.
Yes. Yes.
That's so absolute.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be taken away from you anyway if you
Anyway,
continue along this path.
Yes.
that's an absolute.
Yes.
Now, there are individuals that hated this life in this world and shall voluntarily die. Are you all hearing me
Mm-hmm.
now? It's very important.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The greatest hero, and remember, we're on the hero's journey. You have two types of heroes now. You have the anti hero, that's the one that is kind of selfish and has to be put in situations where he's running away from being a hero. They're called the anti hero. And the hero, Yeshua described as the one that does what? Voluntarily lays down his life for his friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's the true hero. That is what? Not afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
That voluntarily puts his life on the line to what? Accomplish his mission.
Mm-hmm.
So it's two different, we must understand the reality of this dualism now. See,
Eitai, that's why you were saying earlier that the intellectual element is one thing,
that's
but when you really start to understand this, then it becomes quite complicated in terms of accepting this role of what we're talking about.
that's correct.
Right.
So it's going to require some honesty. Now,
Yeah,
we can all now see be at the swimming pool, right?
right.
And we see someone splashing around there drowning.
Yes.
And they're saying, help, help, save me. You're gonna have 12 people run to get their phones and dial 911.
Right.
Then you're going to have some individuals that do what? Dive into that water.
Yeah.
Now, in modern society, if you see something go down, this is the way that we've done, and you call 911, those individuals, oh, you're a hero for doing so. You call for help. But then you have first responders that don't
Yeah.
call the fire department, that don't call
Right.
the police department, but they go in themselves,
Mm-hmm.
putting their lives on the line because it's just that's their essence. Are y'all
Right.
hearing me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we must understand now where we are on this path and where we are on this journey. Now, see, not calling up. Look, some people came to the kingdom for different reasons, right?
Different. Right.
And some people came because they were scared of death. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they remain scared of just the notion of dying. And so they're going to have a different perspective on things. But some people,
Yeah.
the thought of death, it was certain other things that drew them. And, that wasn't a big thing. But we're going to find out as we go forward, that this idea of death now is going to be the line of demarcation. I'm going to prove it to y'all. This, Nasik, is the answer that the ancestors gave me for the question. If any man serve me, let him follow me. And where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, um, uh, he will my Father honor. Now now is my soul troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? Well, what was this hour that he was speaking of? It was his death on the cross. Wasn't that what he was born to do? According to the allegory,
According to the allegory. Yeah.
according to the narrative. This is instructive. We are Jesus. So what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this hour came I unto this hour. And this is what we all gonna have to face now. Father, glorify thy name. I want us to write down the word thy name. Very important. Another concept that we have some understanding of, Yud He Vav He, Nasik, fire,
Mm-hmm.
water, air, earth.
Right.
We have to touch now. That deals with emanation. What
Yep.
what Nazar was saying. So if we don't have a proper comprehension of the name, we don't have a proper comprehension of how we got here and under whose name we are serving. Then came there, listen, then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. Now, here comes the controversy. The people, therefore, that stood by, now they all heard something, now see,
Right.
and heard it Some said that it thundered. Others said an angel spake to him. Jesus answered and said, this voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. Jesus had already said, I know what I came into the world for. I know what I'm getting ready to face. But the voice came for your sake. And it's a teaching lesson for us. And it's, again, like I said, we might be hearing from the ancestors, but some people now see they're going to swear it thundered.
Yeah. I hear you.
In other words, they are going to interpret it based
Right,
on natural earthly understanding.
right, right, right.
They're gonna make
Yeah.
it connect to something that is earthly, something that
Something in
what keeps them
reality. Yeah.
keeps them in this fixed reality.
Right, right.
Others said, now they're gonna go up a little higher. An angel spake to him. Now the angel didn't speak to me, but it spoke to you. How many people have come up to you and say, let me tell you what the Lord told me to tell you?
Yeah.
The Lord spoke to me and told me to holler at you, brother.
Right.
And look, see, that's projecting. That's what we all do.
Right.
And
Mhm.
most of the time, family, when people tell you that, you be like, oh, he ain't say that. He ain't say that to me. I ain't even on what you talking about. The Lord was speaking to you. See, but we don't do that. We project it outward. This is this is an object lesson. This is an object lesson. The Lord, it said, an angel spoke to him, not me. But Jesus said, this voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. In other words, hey, turn it on the inside. What does that mean to you? Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And we've already understood who the prince of this world is. That it doesn't have to do with the aberrant man. It doesn't have to do with any superstitious concept that we have of Satan or Satan, however we want to say it, or the devil. That prince of this world is what keeps you what? Connected to this world. Keeps you holding on to this world
Mhm.
so that you can't
Mhm.
really perceive what? In wholeness.
Right.
Mhm.
Why? Because you like that seed that don't want to be what? That don't want to, first of all, be put in the ground. In other words, go
Oh,
inside
right.
and then die.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. This he said, signifying what death he should die. Now that don't make it clear, family. So, but again, we hung up on this aspect of death. So let's try to break this thing down so that we can be in a better place to address the question that Nasik asked, because that it wasn't just Nasik asked, that's the ancestors putting that question to us individually. Stories, allegories, and metaphors mean one thing to the general public and quite another to the higher echelons of conscious beings. So we saw that demonstrated. We saw a voice in the allegory a voice coming from heaven. One group said it thundered. The other group said an angel spoke not to me, but to him.
To him, right.
The average person perceived many of these interpretations to be literal. It thundered. However, initiated individuals realized that these same stories were often, here it goes, multi-layered and contained subtle nuances of meaning. That is
Mm-hmm.
from an enlightened perspective, now see.
Right, right.
So it's no conflict to and what is called an initiated or an enlightened individual, because when they hear it thunder, they understand exactly where that person is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, right.
So, they can say to them, yeah, the voice, the message was strong, like thunder,
Right, right.
that it was a strong message, but you're only hearing a little part of it. And an angel spoke to him. Yeah, the ancestor spoke, but it just wasn't to me, bro. It was to you too.
Mm-hmm.
But you're projecting outward. You have to go inward to hear it and hear the fullness of the story. So we understand that it's multi-layered and it does what? Contains subtle nuances of meaning. No need for contradiction and conflict and enmity and controversy. We just have to realize where we are on the path and which path that we're on. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back now to something we addressed yesterday, the Akashic record. And I gave a scripture passage from the Egyptian, from the Kemetans, on the subject of the Akashic records. I am the keeper of my Akashic records, all of which is and which shall be. Eternity it is, and everlastingness. Now, listen to what he says. O three paths. Now, did we just identify the three paths?
Mm-hmm.
It thundered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
An angel spoke to
Mm-hmm.
him, and then exactly
Mm-hmm.
what the ancestor said, right?
Right.
So those are the three paths. And two pillars. The two pillars and we're going to see that two of the paths fall under the broad path called the age of light, the knowledge of the age of light. All right, it thundered, and an angel spoke to him. That is under one path, or one pillar, rather. I'm sorry, under one pillar. The other pillar is exactly what it said, exactly what the voice said. And then it says, open your portals, open your gates. All right. Three paths, two pillars, one gate. Three paths. Doesn't that sound like a narrowing path?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Three
That's what it
paths,
is.
two pillars, and
And
one
one.
portal, one gate. It sounds like the
Mm-hmm.
path is narrowing, correct?
That's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
All right, let's go forward. Isaiah 45, 1 through 7. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. Isn't that what we want to do? Wasn't that the question? How are we going to subdue these nations, right?
That's the
Right.
question, right?
Listen, and I will loose the loins of kings. Now, what does he mean by the loins? What is that referring to?
Children.
And correct. And how do children get there in males? Through the male reproductive organ, right?
Cain.
Through the
Yes.
through the phallus. I will loosen the loins of
Mhm.
kings to open before him the two-leaved gates. Now, what do y'all think the two-leaved gates is referring to?
Wow, let me see.
I'll answer.
First thing I thought was the entrance gate and the exit gate, but
If the loins of kings is talking about the phallus in reproduction and making kids, what is the two-leaved gates talking about?
oh, the scrotum.
No, the yoni.
The female.
Oh, the female. Okay,
The yoni.
all right.
And the gates shall not be shut. Meaning there's going to be constant, instant manifestation of intent, instant manifestation, loosing the loins of kings, opening before them the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. This is what it's talking about in the book of the Revelation, where the gates will not be shut night and day, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
So now see, this day and night, this
There
day
we
and
go
night,
again.
here we go again.
There we go again, right.
Here we go again.
Yeah,
Day
right.
I will go before thee and make the crooked places
Right.
straight. I will break in
Mhm.
pieces the gates of brass and cut asunder the bars of iron. This is removing the hindrances to creation.
Mhm.
All right? It's like
Mhm.
taking off the chastity belt.
Right.
Mhm.
And listen, and I will give thee the treasures, not the treasures of light, but the treasures of darkness,
Mhm.
Wow.
not the
Mhm.
low
Wow.
hanging fruit, but
Wow.
the hidden riches
That's true.
of the
Yeah.
secret places.
Oh.
Wow.
This is the emergence of another type of knowledge, family.
Mhm.
Eitai, what is the Isaiah 45 what?
1 through 7.
Okay, excellent.
That thou mayest know that the Lord, Yud He Vav He, which called thee by thy name,
Mm.
am the God of Israel. For Jacob, my servant's sake. Now listen, he's going to use two names. Israel, mine elect. But you're going to have to understand which category you fall under. It's not
Mhm.
synonymous. I'm going to show you because we're talking about what? Comprehending the reality of dualism.
Mm.
Just for us to say, now see, that we know dualism is wrong and to not address the dualism that's inside of us and categorize that, I mean, that's vanity.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
Mhm.
I have even called thee by thy name. Well, it's either thy name is either Jacob or Israel. He didn't give us one name.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Jacob was the name of a former, the same individual, but what? Under a former covenant or under a
Absolutely.
Mhm.
former knowledge.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
And Israel was what his name was changed to.
right.
I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. That's the whole problem, family. That's the
I
whole
know that.
problem.
Right.
And his name, we're going to find out, is one. It's wholeness. We haven't known that yet. So he's got to
Mm-hmm.
call us by two names and deal with us based on how we hear and perceive.
Whoa. Whoa. And it's just like that too.
Yes.
Mm,
I am the Lord,
mm.
and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I have girded thee, though thou hast not known me. He says it again.
Mm. Wow.
That they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west. How many times is he going to tell us the prophetic framework so that we can get this straight in our mind? And from the west, not from the east, from the west. And the west is where the
Right.
sun goes to what? Not to rise, family,
Right, right,
but to
right.
die, to set, to rest.
Right.
But we got a
Mm-hmm.
problem with the sunset. Because that means darkness, and some of us are
Right.
still, let's be for real, we're afraid of
Yeah.
darkness. We're afraid of it. We're even afraid of the
Mm-hmm.
term. But this is where your treasures lie. The true treasures lie not in the light, but in the darkness, in the hidden places. That there is none beside me. I am the Lord, there is none else. I form light, I form the light and create the darkness. So how is it are you going to prefer light over darkness?
The darkness.
I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all things. If the Lord didn't create death, where did it come from?
Mm.
Y'all that want to
Mm-hmm.
keep this concept of creator. If he created all things, created peace and
Mm-hmm.
evil, light and darkness, you going to tell me he didn't
Mm-hmm.
create death and
Right.
life?
Mm-hmm.
We got to come to an equilibrium. We got to come to a balance. Because we will not be able to properly comprehend these things. And then if we're out of balance, then our answers and our solutions are going to be what? Out of balance. Like causes always
Okay.
produce like effects.
But when you say he is we, correct?
Now, anytime I'm not talking about no God in the sky. We know that. We are going inside. I'm not talking about anything. This is the whole point of what we've been talking about. Not talking about anything that is outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are talking about the
Mm-hmm.
Lord, we must let go of the idea and the concept that we're talking about something that is outside of ourselves. I know that that is how we've been programmed, but we must let go of that. There is no God that we're going to see that does not look exactly like us or exactly like me. We got that? So when we're in the scriptures and we're talking about Yahweh or the Lord, we're talking about another aspect of ourselves. Understood?
Absolutely.
We got it?
Mm-hmm.
He got it.
Okay, very good. Very, very good. Toda. If a triangle, now look, I want y'all to look at a triangle that starts wide, right? And that is ending or descending into one point. Are y'all seeing it?
Mm-hmm.
It starts
Can.
wide, but it descends into one point.
Mm-hmm.
Just like this. a representation of a black hole, starts wide, right, and descends into a singularity. Y'all with me?
Gang.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That also a vortex.
Yes, yeah, it represents a it looks just like a vortex as well. A slightly different concept, but the same thing. Absolutely. If a triangle is positioned pointing upwards, it symbolizes the following: masculinity or male. Are y'all seeing this?
Gang.
Solar
Gang.
or related to the sun, Shakta, active, up, and the father. All right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to put it this way: when the same triangle, ain't no two triangles, family.
Right.
This is the
Come
same
on.
triangle flipped
Mm-hmm.
upside down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again. It's the same triangle, family,
Flipped
Mm-hmm.
upside down.
flipped
Mm-hmm.
upside down. Same
Mm-hmm.
triangle, Nasi.
Absolutely.
It represents what? The feminine. Same triangle. It's I'm just showing it, family, from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We are perceiving the same triangle differently, but it's the same triangle. And it represents not Shakta, but Shakti. Not activity, but passivity. Not down, not up, but down. Not the father, but the mother. Not the solar, but the lunar. And it represents a cave. All right?
Mm-hmm.
It represents a cave uh, as opposed to a mountain. It represents a cave as opposed to a mountain. The symbolic idea here is that the vertical side represents what? One aspect. The horizontal side, another aspect
Mm-hmm.
of the same thing, y'all. The hypotenuse, that's the middle portion, is offspring of the combining sides. But it's a product of what? The same thing, not
Mm-hmm.
different. So that you say I'm Shakti and I say I'm Shakta, and the other person says, no, I represent the hypotenuse. And then we all get together and what? Start arguing.
Right.
And our higher self is just sitting back, shaking the head and talking about, man, the combination of one and another produces what? A new form of being altogether.
Mm-hmm.
A child, as it were. This, among other complexities, is where the triangle symbol, meaning of creation, creativity, is stemmed. But it's just one triangle. Each side and corner sing out a melody. That is the call or a like cause. And their combination in form creates a marvelous harmonic chord. So now see, we don't get caught up again in arguing one point or another. We just have the realization that individuals are where? Different places in their perception.
Mm-hmm.
But like the scripture says, all things work together for what? One good thing. And we're going to realize that this is the case. It's a marvelous harmonic chord, accord, or orchestration. The response or the like effect. To the Greeks, the triangle is seen as the delta glyph. That's the yoni, the two-leaved gate, and is symbolic of a doorway. This conception emphasizes the combination and interaction of corresponding polarities or their opposites create or produce a new opening. A new opening. We're going to start talking about the science of this now. We've started into it. For example, balancing left brain and right brain functions. Now, the left brain and the right brain is still one brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it produces a doorway to what? Genius. A doorway to genius, but you need both sides. Higher intellection, knowledge, insight, etc. The hypotenuse equals the midbrain function. And we can see that if we put the triangles base to base, what does it do? It's just like that, it creates that midbrain, that higher intellection. So one person says it thundered, the other person says an angel spoke, but the middle ground is what? Genius. What actually happened?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the higher intellection.
Mm-hmm.
But both, all family are connected. There is a singularity that always exists, but we have not perceived it correctly. And again, we get into conflicts because things sound different. The way that you identify something, now this is another reversal that we have to take. When you look up the word identity, you're going to see the word sameness. Sameness. And we'll take a look at, I think it's in the etymological dictionary. When we look up the word identity,
We lost the sound.
okay, I'm
We
sorry.
lost the sound.
Yeah, when we look up the word identity, we're going to find, family, sameness, oneness. So when you're trying to identify something, don't look at the differences. I'm giving you wisdom. You are trying to perceive the sameness, the oneness, the source. The perceptions and the manifestations might be different, but the source can be the same. Again, we're talking about when we go to the ancestors, we might hear something from that source that is coming directly from the source, but perceive it in different ways. So the trick is to find the sameness, to identify sameness, not difference, but that's what we focus on mostly. We focus on differences. And
Eitai, the differences, wouldn't the differences The reason we focus on the difference is the programming that occur in the simulated reality.
That's correct.
It's all about differences.
That's correct. And now see,
Yeah.
the key that you said is the simulated reality. And again,
Right.
we must become more skilled in identifying that. And then we can operate what? As gods down here and not as humans. But it's going to take,
Lost the sound.
Sound keeps going away. Sound keeps going
okay,
away.
all right.
You said we have lost the skill. That's all we heard. We have lost the skill.
Yes. What did you say, Zimran? Okay. I think the reason we're losing the sound because we have a lot of callers on, and quite possibly everyone has not muted their devices, whether it's a phone or I'm seeing a lot of microphones open. So if you would, please mute your microphones because it's causing the delay and interference. A lot of times, family, we can't hear the feedback, but it is feeding back. So if we could mute our devices, it would help. If you don't know how, what I'm going to do, if I see a microphone open, I'm just going to mute it, and when I ask a question, I'll unmute the mics if someone has a question or a comment. All right. So where were we? The major problem is identifying the simulated reality and understanding the difference. And again, we've taught about it. Nasik has even coined the term organic reality, which is appropriate. But the trick is understanding how complex this simulated reality. See, the word simulated means that it's almost like reality, or we, again, perceive it as reality. And um, we conduct ourselves based on that. So this is what has to, we have to have clarity on that within ourselves to really know what belongs to or falls under the category of simulated and what falls under the category of the organic reality. Micah 4 and 5, for my people will walk, listen, everyone in the name of his God. I'm sorry, for all people, rather, will walk everyone in the name of his God. See, we're going to find out that these two or these several perceptions are going to continue on even until the end. And we will walk what? In the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. Let me tell you all something. You on this phone call, there are very few people that understand the name of the Lord in the way that it has been revealed to us. Yud He Vav He, fire, water, air, earth. And they understand, and not very many people, I haven't seen anyone that is teaching relative to how the flaw was created within that process. Now, see, I don't see any information on that. And it's an ongoing search. no one understands the name of the Lord from the standpoint of how we understand it. Other people know that, yeah, it corresponds, yud corresponds to fire, hay corresponds to water, etc., and so on. But they have not understood it in the fullness of the prophetic framework that we are working within. So everyone walking in the name of his God, but other individuals walking in the name of Yahuwah forever and ever. And again, we're not talking about a God like that. That is just the allegorical context that we find this in the scriptures. One shall say, I am the Lord's. Another shall call himself by the name Jacob. Y'all seeing this? And another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord and surname himself Israel. So we see the same three categories, family. Jacob, that's a name. Israel, that's a name. And Yud He Vav He, that's a name. And again, when we go back, this is not something that is outside of ourselves. Some people are more heavily biased to the superego. That is one path. And they see things almost exclusively in moralistic terms. Another path is the path of the ego. So we have the ego and the really super ego, the super ego, the super ego, which is the ego like on steroids. All right. So the ego sees things in terms of reality. It thundered. The super ego, an angel spoke to him because obviously he got to get himself together. He's not really on my super ego level. But the id or the the essence, goes to Nasik organic, the essence, the instinctual, the true nature. And you see how they have it represented here as a devil.
Right.
This is what the aberrant man is afraid of you tapping into. So they
Yes.
what? Demonize it. So when they talk about satanic, when they talk about demons, it is simply an attempt, and a lame attempt, to make off limits or taboo exactly what you need to tap into. And they want to keep you what? Actually, they want to keep you moralistic
Moralistic. Right.
and thinking. See, moralism, Nasi, thinks that you can perfect humanity.
Right. Right.
That is super
Right.
ego. If that is not super ego, we all know that the purpose of this whole thing and the framework is based on what? A flaw,
Right.
imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
So by being good and moral, you're just being the best imperfect form of yourself. Is never going to get you to divinity. And in the simulated reality, family, you can be whatever you want to be. Who's stopping you? You can be,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen individuals in this simulated reality become the worst human beings imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen individuals become the best human beings imaginable. But that did not get them to divinity. That didn't necessarily get them back to the source. And it's impossible that it would. We've
You
even,
know, you're absolutely right, Eitai, because I'm gonna tell you. I have to give everybody a little story to kind of verify what you just saying. When I was before I met the kingdom, you know, I used to be a good card player. I used to play poker,
Uh-huh.
and I was very good at it. But I was a good poker player using my skills to win, and most of the time I did win. But when I ran up against the guy that was not moralistic, because I was the moralistic guy, not moralistic, I found myself always trying to figure out, well, man, how is the guy? He's a cheat. He's a this. He's a crook. He's that. But he always won.
Right.
And I was the moral guy, but I was getting beat by him because he was marking the cards, and I couldn't catch it. When I caught it, he was getting ready to lead the poker game with all the money.
Right.
That's an absolute. I mean, that ain't just a story.
Right.
That literally happened with me, and that
Right.
proved to me about this moralistic stuff. It ain't like that.
Right. And now see, just because my father was a poker player, and he taught us how to play poker from as far back as I remember. And the things that you're talking about, he talked about the same thing.
Same thing, I'm telling you.
And the thing is, you're playing a rigged game. You're playing
a rigged
game. And the thing is, the individual that cheats knows more than you that it's a rigged game.
Absolutely.
And
that's why he does
it. And that's why he does it. And
right.
the thing is, now see that the position that you want to be in is the house all the time. Whether you shoot craps, whether you shoot craps, whether you playing poker or doing rope races, you want to be the house, because the house, the odds are going to always do what? It guarantees losers.
Right.
The game, the simulated reality, guarantees losers.
Guarantees losers.
It's necessary. So, excellent example. Excellent example. So, family, let's go back to the monomyth, all right? And look at the story of Isis and Osiris and the achievement of wholeness, singularity, and oneness. And we're just going to skim through this very quickly just to give us some context and to bring us back to the monomyth, because we've been talking, for some time about Osiris and the green man and all that. And we want to continue and add some continuity to this. So let us bring it back, because it's talking about the same thing. It's talking within the allegory of how to achieve wholeness. And it tells this story in detail of how we lost it and how to get it back. After his forced abdication, Ra receded to the heavens, and Osiris took the throne. After seeing the cringeworthy state of Egypt, Osiris set to work at once on teaching them to lead civilized lives rather than acting like uncultured swine. Isis discovered the grain of both wheat and barley. Very important that we understand this aspect of grains and seeds. All right. It is throughout the narrative. And Osiris taught them how to what? Plant seeds. See, unless a grain of wheat, what? Falls into the earth and dies. See, Osiris is Jesus. That's what the Jesus character is based on. So we just read John 12:1 talking about the wheat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless a grain of wheat, we start at verse 23. The hour is come, the Son of Man shall be glorified. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. So again, the story of Osiris starts out talking about what? Planting seeds. This is where we get that symbolism in the Bible, all through the Bible. A sower went out sowing seeds. This is part of the Osirian myth. How to what? Tend the water crops and how to cut the corn when it was ripe. So this is planting. He's teaching them how to be gods. Planting, creation, or generating, that's the G. Tending and watering the crops, that's O, operation. Are y'all with me?
Mm-hmm.
Then how to cut the corn when it was ripe. That is D, destruction, right?
Right.
And how to thresh the grain, meaning how to separate the what? Wheat from the chaff. And
Right.
then what? Make it into bread. I'm the bread of heaven. Moses
Right.
didn't give you the manna. That's the new creation. He showed them also how to plant vines and to make grapes into wine. So this is Jesus being what? Talking about, well, and in the Old Testament, it's talking about every man's fig tree and vineyard. All right. These are symbols. And to make the grapes into wine. However, Set, the jealous brother of Osiris, secretly plotted to kill Osiris and become king in his stead, along with, listen, 72 conspirators. The 72 conspirators are the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And we're going to talk about the 72 conspirators and the 72-fold name of Yahuwah, Yud He Vav He.
know what? Wow.
Yes,
The Muslims say when you pass, I'm just thinking about the 72
that's
virgins.
right.
That's the number came to my mind. I'm saying, okay.
The 72
I
virgins,
always relate to
correct?
numbers because numbers out of my existence.
That's correct. Now you were talking about the
Okay.
72
Brand
virgins,
new,
correct?
yes. Yes. Okay.
72 virgins, same thing. Same thing. Just again, it's the same triangle, just turned upside down to the feminine. Are y'all with me? So he plotted along with 72 conspirators. And listen, also, and Aso, rather, queen of Ethiopia. That is the divine feminine that had to be involved. That is Eve, eating of the forbidden fruit and giving it to what? Her husband to eat. So-called causing the fall. Eon Sophia, plunging into the waters. Doing what? Causing the fall or the defect. Delilah,
Right.
giving up
Mm-hmm.
Samson's secret, right? And
Right.
causing them to what? Afflict Samson. Do y'all see the prophetic framework? It doesn't change, family.
Yeah.
But now see, the perception has to be not being confused by the difference, but having the ability now to what? See sameness.
Sameness, right.
This is
Yeah.
a power of intellect, family. This is a power of intellect. He fashioned a chest made of rare cedar, inlaid with what? Ebony and ivory, black and white, and less rare gold and silver, other opposites, and painted the inside with figures of gods and birds and animals. Now, see, that's the box. The chest
Yeah.
is the box.
Right. Right. Right.
It's the false reality that he put him in. Y'all don't see this.
Yeah.
I
Come
didn't
on,
hear it.
Eitai.
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, I'll go back.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll go back. However, Set, the jealous brother of Osiris, secretly plotted to kill Osiris and become king in his stead. See, this word Set is the word for set on or sate on. All right? This is very important word play here. So when we say Satan, the devil, you feel what I'm saying? This is
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
where this is where we get it from. But we don't have the proper connotation of that. So along with 72 conspirators, that's the ancestors, and Aso or Aso, the queen of Ethiopia, that's the divine mother, the divine feminine, Eve, Ion Sophia, and Delilah. He fashioned a chest made of rare cedar. The chest is the box, it's the simulated reality. And it's
Yeah.
simulated because he fashioned it.
Right. It didn't emanate.
It didn't emanate, he fashioned it.
Right.
Of rare cedar inlaid with ebony and ivory, black and white. It's dualistic. It's dualistic in nature. Somehow, he figured out Osiris's exact dimensions. I'll tell you how he did. The ancestors told him,
Yeah.
and the divine
Mm-hmm.
feminine informed him, because this was a deliberate act that had to take place. Why? To heal the flaw. He brought out the fabulous chest and told everyone that he would give it to whoever fit it perfectly.
So Eitai,
Yes,
right here, a major point I think we need to bring out to the family is that is even in the assimilated reality, we talk about light and darkness, good and evil, right and wrong, etc. We see, if we look at it, we see that the feminine played the primary role on both sides, light or darkness.
that's correct,
Mm-hmm.
Nasi. That's correct.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that should be
Mm-hmm.
so empowering to us. And
Mm-hmm.
Right.
there's no need for fear, family.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
There's no
Mm-hmm.
need for fear in letting go.
Great point,
Naturally,
Yeah.
Nasi. Great point.
naturally, Osiris tried it and succeeded. Look, see, this simulated reality seemingly, Nasi, fits us perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it fits some people better than others. So
Yeah.
they are going to love their life, right, and not lose it. But it's going to be taken from you anyway if you are continuing in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll tell y'all a story that a buddy of mine, we graduated from college. We both from the streets and stuff like that. But, we went on really, playing basketball. That was the excuse, to go into college. And we would be downtown now, see, and
Uh-huh.
here we are. Now, we think we are walking the path that we supposed to walk, that makes us what morally right and all that kind of stuff. And here,
Right.
we in $1,000 suits and walking up the street, and white women would shift their purse to the other arm and hold on to it tight, right?
Right. Right.
Here,
Right.
my buddy is, he about 6'7", 6'8". I'm 6'5", and you holding on to that purse. Like if we wanted to take now, we think we businessmen, and we would laugh and say, here she is trying to hold on to that purse. If we wanted to take it, just the mere fact of you holding on to it is going to make it a lot worse for you because you're going to give it up anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is the attitude of individuals loving this simulated reality and holding on to it. But if you're destined, if that's what you came on here, emanated in here for, then you're on a path that's going to take you away from that anyway. You might as well voluntarily do it. But see, everybody is not going to hear it now, see?
Right.
Naturally,
Mhm.
Osiris tried it on and succeeded. However, Set slammed the lid down and covered it with molten lead. Now, lead is associated with which planet? Saturn or Satan. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were locked what? Into this simulated reality. Well, why? So that we could fix the flaw. We weren't going to do it voluntarily like that. As a result, Osiris as a human died. I'm going to let that marinate.
Yeah. Let that marinate.
Osiris as a human died,
Oh, that's clear.
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
could not be in peace,
Right.
could not
Be in peace.
be in wholeness
Right.
in the afterlife, since he had not had a proper burial, unless a seed falls into what? The ground and dies. It
Proper
abides
burial.
alone. So here he is, alone still. There's another aspect to this. So here's the feminine energy now coming into play. Because, family, we see that this feminine energy is going to play a major role, like Nasik said, on both sides. And when we look at Kali or Kalima, excuse me, standing over Shiva, who has what? Who has fallen asleep. And I thought I had this in here, but I don't. But you all remember Kalima standing over Shiva.
Right.
So
Right.
this is Isis. Now, in America, they have used this name Isis to identify what they call probably the worst terrorist group, that they're blaming everything on ISIS.
Right.
Now see, reverse ritual Isis searched far and wide for the chest, and after many years, she finally found the chest. In other words, identified the divine feminine, Nasik, is the one, that element within you that is going to define, that is going to allow you to recognize or empower you to recognize what? The false reality,
Right. Clear.
simulated reality. However, after she got the chest and hid it, Set happened to come across it. He opened the chest, and being the benevolent brother that he was, split or divided Osiris's body into 14 pieces and scattered them across Egypt. As a result, for the second time, Isis searched for Egypt for all 14 pieces. Now, in the Bible, this is what this is based on. See, we thought that there was going to be a second gathering, like of a people. And you all recall where it talks about that Israel would be gathered a second time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And see, let me try to find it. So, okay, here it is. It's in Isaiah now. See, 11:11. Wow, and that
Wow.
11:11, that 11:11,
Yes.
man.
Yes. Yes.
But
Absolutely.
Malkia,
Uh-huh.
Malkia,
That ain't coincidence, shows.
that
That
ain't no
is not
coincidence.
coincidence. No, that is not coincidence.
Now here
That
it
ain't
goes
11.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Here it goes again now. And in that day shall there be a root of Yishai, which shall stand for an ensign of the people, and to it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, shall be what? Glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Is it all Finnian family?
Mhm.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to do what? Recover the remnant of his people. So obviously, again, family, it is two remnants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar or Shinar and from Hamath and from the isles of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nation and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners. This is Osiris's body being what?
Scattered.
Split or dispersed, cut in pieces, and scattered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a result, for the second time, we just read about it, Isis searched Egypt for all 14 pieces. Now listen, or 13, since a fish ate the 14th. The 14th piece was the phallus, the reproductive organ. And this is symbolic because we just read about it that the fish is the yoni. Y'all got to see this. The fish is the yoni. And it talks about it in Isaiah 45. I will loose the loins of kings. That's the phallus. And what? Open for him the two lead gates, the yoni, and the gate shall not be shut. Do y'all see that?
Yeah, we see it.
The fish eating what? The phallus, or consuming the phallus, and managed to find them with the help of Nephthys. Now, this is another female that was her sister. Listen, family, who was the wife of Set, but ditched him. And by the way, Nephthys is also the one responsible for putting the scratches on the face of Isis, the so-called Madonna. Y'all remember? This was a representation of Isis, not the Madonna, with the two scratches on her face that she received from her sister Nephthys. Just a little something that our ancestors did so that we would properly identify our signs and symbols. Everybody with me? We didn't lose anyone, did we? Okay.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Everybody with me?
Okay.
Gang.
All right, good. So Nephthys is the one responsible for scratching the face of Isis, the so-called Black Madonna. And Anubis is the dog god, her son, that leads us through what? The underworld. So all of these energetic elements are present that we need to walk this path correctly. She joined the pieces together with her magic. In other words, the feminine energy is going to be the energy that allows us to perform the miracle of the one thing, to see sameness, and to make multiple diverse things into one, and made a likeness of the missing phallus. And after giving a proper burial, he passed unto the land of the dead of the underworld. That's the only way that we're going to be able to become whole. While little Horus, Heru, the hero, the son of Isis and Osiris, which is just another form or aspect of what? The resurrected, healed, whole Osiris. Grew up, he battled against Set for an extremely long time. Why was it a long time? Because he didn't understand that Set was a part of him. Family, we got to understand that the aberrant man, we got to claim him
Mm-hmm.
because he is in fact us, an aspect of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean we accept, that doesn't mean moralistically accepting him as a brother and all that kind of, no. We just have to realize that within the prophetic framework, this is an aspect, a result of something that we fashioned and created for a purpose. And from that perspective, that's where we are going to be able to understand how this solution is going to be achieved. And he became the third pharaoh of Egypt when he won. Drawing to a close now. Singularity carries God's name in Arabic. This is from an article of the same name. Singularity carries God's name in Arabic. And we're going to get back to this, the name of God. We're looking here at a black hole, all right? Different representations of a black hole. And you see, now see this broad region here
Right.
that descends inward into what's called
Right.
ergosphere and descends inward to what is called the event horizon, moves past gravity and space-time until it gets distorted and then moves into singularity. Family, this is a graph of a star dying.
Yeah.
Mm.
We got to get over this false conception of death
Mm-hmm.
and this fear. Why? Because all stars will eventually die.
Mm-hmm.
See, we won't say hallelujah to that, but we should be saying, hallelujah.
Right.
Listen, they will either now see this is reverse emanation.
Right. Reverse
This is
emanation. Yeah.
going back to singularity.
Yeah.
They will either directly collapse on themselves and become black holes, or the remnants will merge with other stars that will eventually become black holes. Or if external mass falls into those remnants, they will blow up and leave black holes. So the first aspect, Nasi, is the star voluntarily giving up its life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The second aspect is one that loves its life so much, but eventually loses it. It
Mm.
turns into a black hole anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So black holes are the destiny of most stars. Actually, our solar system, listen, y'all, our entire solar system is formed out of the debris of a star 100 times the mass of our own sun that what? Imploded, turned inward on itself, not outward, and became what? A black hole. At the center of black holes, that is, collapsed stars or individuals, Nasi, that have turned in on themselves, turned inward, lies the location called the singularity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is wisdom, family. Here is wisdom. An observer far away from a black hole sees the events near a black hole in slow motion. If he shines a beam of light into this black hole, he will have to wait forever. But still,
Whoa.
this beam of light will never reach singularity.
Whoa. Wow.
Whoa.
You
Wow.
cannot remain
Wow.
a child of light.
Light. Yes. Yes. Mm. Mm.
Uh-huh.
The singularity, listen, is a location in the future of stars
Mm.
where gravity goes mad and space and time become indistinguishable. You're not going to be able to remain within the space-time continuum.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes. Yes.
From
Hmm.
general relativity, we know that this is a location where the structure of space-time becomes what? Distorted and becomes singular, one thing. Hence the name singularity. However, singular, ahad in Arabic, is one of the 99 names of God.
The 99 name.
In the
Wow.
Quran, God swears by the location of the stars. This is our ancestors speaking to us again. So let me ask you, and you don't have to answer. If someone asks you where the location of the stars are, would you look up?
No.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Wow.
You would have to look inward, family.
Inward. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
You'd have to look inward, which, as it turns out, carry his own name. Quran 56:75 to 77 swear by the location of the stars. It is a great swear if you knew. It is a noble Quran where God swears not by the stars themselves, but rather by their locations. This is instructive. Our ancestors was giving this to us. Mawake in Arabic. Today we know the future of those locations is singularity. Ain't got nothing to do with outer space. It has to do with inner space. That is, they carry his own name, Ahad, and it's the same word in Hebrew, family. As we close, becoming one, Ahad, with darkness, becoming the black, not Hole, but the black Whole,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Malkiel,
Absolutely.
transitioning beyond the event horizon into the black hole. Behold, I show you a mystery. Listen, family, we shall not all sleep. Now, see, that means that some people will enter into the rest voluntarily. Some people won't, but we will all be changed. When it says we shall not all sleep, it's saying that sleep is preferable, right? But we shall all be changed. The word achad, I'm reading from the center, means to unite, to join oneself together, to collect oneself, to unite thyself, all right? To gather thyself together. This is something that ISIS is in us, trying to do what? Gather, put us together, get us into singularity. The event horizon,
Okay.
the event horizon family, where we're experiencing and observing life from, that's where our existence is outside of singularity. If you want to remain outside, sending up 911 calls for somebody to save you instead of going inside and saving yourself, you're going to be there forever. Isn't that what it says? You trying to shine
Yeah.
light because you're scared of the darkness. You trying to shine a light into a black hole,
Okay.
and you're going to have to wait forever. But the beam of light is never going to reach the singularity. You got to jump into yourself in order to reach it. An event horizon is a boundary in space time beyond which events cannot affect an outside observer. In layman's terms, it is defined as the shell of points of no return. You got to put yourself in the position. And now see, this is what you and
Uh-huh.
I, we were talking about the tipping point. You remember?
Right. Yeah.
That's that point of no return. That's the
Right.
point where you're going to fall, right? And you're not going to be able to adjust your position. So it's telling
Right.
us that we got to go all the way inside, past our comfort zones. That is the points at which the gravitational pull, isn't gravity what keeps you on this earth? But you're going to have to switch to another gravity. The gravitational pull of that black hole is so great, it makes it impossible to escape, even for
Absolutely.
light.
Right.
Even for light.
Yeah.
An event horizon is most commonly associated with black holes. Light emitted from the inside, from inside the event horizon family can never reach the outside observer. Never. You'll stand
Wow.
there forever waiting for results. You got to jump in and save yourself. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Y'all really don't want to hear that one.
Right. Right.
Come on with it.
Now,
All right.
family, we've been talking about this word shem and shame, and this word the name. It doesn't mean what we think it means. We're talking about the real power in the name. And it says it's better than precious ointment. Nasik, all you got to do is go back to where Nasik dealt with this. This Shemin Nasik, you remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
This ointment that what is going to cleanse this and heal this wound that we have, this flaw. And when we go back to that teaching, Nasik told us that it's going to take a movement away from what? Dualism and totally into singularity.
That's what it's going to take. Exactly what it's going to take.
This is what we've been saying from the beginning. And so Shem has to do with these stars, with the sun, with Shemshon, with coming into Nasi, our true identity.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
true essence. That's what id means, the id entity. Y'all hear me?
Yeah. The id
Id
entity.
entity, not the ego entity or the super ego entity, but the id entity. And we're going to end here and just look at this film again, and we'll go into it. Look at this clip again that really illustrates in allegorical forms and in the form of a myth of the never ending story of this journey to one's true self.
Nonsense! You don't understand it?
You say you don't understand anything.
Think. Worst one is coming up. Next is the magic mirror gate. Atreyu has to face his true self. So
Again, we each have to face. Atreyu was on the hero's journey, so we each have to face our id entity. And Nasik, that is something that is unfamiliar to us
Yeah.
because we think that we're going to see something that is moral. It is beyond morality. It is not. It does not exist on those terms. You had to exist on those terms in the what? Simulated reality.
Right.
It does not have to do with the prince of this world, which is the ego that
Dang.
conforms you to what? The simulated reality. So it's something that is unfamiliar. The id is unfamiliar. And we're
Yeah.
afraid, and fear comes from what? The unknown.
I
Right.
know.
So it doesn't have to do the id and the true self. Again, doesn't have to do. See, we're afraid because, he might be. It might be some demons in there. See, it's a false notion. It's just you.
Right.
It's the you that you're not familiar with
Right.
because you want to see a reflection, not see that conforms to your moral self.
Come on. Come on, Eitai. Uh-huh.
You're not gonna see that. It's gonna be something totally different from what you're used to seeing. So we got to get comfortable with that because it's our true self, and they're gonna talk about it right here. I'll move it back a little bit.
Atreyu has to face his true self.
So what? That won't be too hard for him.
Ah, that's what everyone thinks.
That's what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
That's what everybody thinks.
Kind people find that they are cruel. Brave men that they are really cowards. Confronted with their true selves, most men run away screaming.
Now I'm gonna stop it right here. Now you see how they have Atreyu represented here
Yeah.
in the movie. It's a departure from the book. All right, and Atreyu, I'll show you because it fits into what we're talking about. It says that in the book, Atreyu has what? Green skin. This is the green man. This is
Green man.
Osiris, because he comes from the tribe called Greenskins, who hunts the purple buffalo. He is a warrior. Though still a boy, he has what? A pure heart. In the movie, he is still a warrior and all that. However, he looks like a normal boy with normal colored skin. Normal colored skin, y'all.
Right.
Normal colored skin.
Normal color skin. Right.
Right, right.
I do remember my first time watching the movie, and the first time they show Atreyu, thinking to myself, is that a boy or a girl? I can't tell. He does look a little girlish at first, but I'm telling you, that is the ritual to move it away from you and to this androgynous being.
Right, right,
Y'all remember we
right,
said that, the guardian angels,
right.
but we see we can decode this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have that knowledge. Now, again, in the movie, just to close this out, in the movie, they only had 2 gates, but in the book, it's 3 gates that they have to go through. The 3 gates, all right? And this is what we've been talking about: the id, the ego, and the superego.
Right,
These are the 3 paths, all right? And it's consistent, but we have to know what? Our mythology. The first gate is called the Great Riddle Gate, and it has 2 sphinxes there, 2 sphinxes that someone passes by or attempts to pass by. When the gaze of the sphinx is on you, you will be frozen on the spot until you solve all the riddle in the universe. The only thing that can withstand the gaze of the sphinx is another sphinx. The sphinxes of the Great Riddle Gate, however, will sometimes close their eyes to let someone pass through. Now, this is that gate, the gateway that is open to us, specifically on this call by Al Qadir. We're given a
right,
pass. We can pass through.
right, right.
However, it says the sphinxes of the Great Riddle Gate, however, will sometimes close their eyes to let someone pass through. However, there seems to be no rhyme or reason to who they let through, completely random. See, this is the person that doesn't know that the little boy, well, he knows the little boy was green, but he doesn't know the significance of the green man.
Mm-hmm.
Al Qadir, that is what? He's the password. So this is why they allow Atreyu in. When Atreyu approaches the Great Riddle Gate, they shut their eyes and he is able to pass. In the movie, however, it's in reverse. Why, family? Because it's a reverse ritual.
Mm-hmm.
The Sphinx's eyes are closed at all times, and they sometimes let people pass, but their gate goes deep into the person's soul and judges them. If they open their eyes as someone passes, they will be struck with energy and killed instantly. When Atreyu goes to pass, they begin to open their eyes and he runs for it, narrowly missing the killing blast. They want you to be afraid. It's a reverse ritual. Are you all with me?
Okay.
Yeah.
We just saw the second gate, the magic mirror gate, and the third gate family, is the no key gate. We don't need a key. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a closed gate. There is no handle, no knob, no keyhole. The gate is made of fantastician selenium, a metal that is completely indestructible. What? Come on now, melanated individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing the metal will react to is the person's will or their intent.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what we've been teaching?
This is
Okay.
what we're talking about. That's
Big
right.
time.
Only
Yep.
way to get through the gate is to forget why they need to get through it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And not need to get through it at all. Only then will the gate open. Family, when you quiet your mental, all that mental static that is going on, forget what, become unattached to what? Outcomes. And to know that that you are on that journey.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Kane shows.
To know
Mm-hmm.
of a certainty. So, closing this thing out very quickly, we have to become one with the darkness. You're not going to be able to stay in your comfort zone. You got to overcome these fears, especially as it relates to death, and remove that old programming from your mind. The center of a black hole, infinitely massive singularity or portal into another universe. We know that it is our portal to a new age and a new beginning. And we're going to pick up here, family, tomorrow. And then, Nasik,
Yeah.
you think you are going to be ready to do your portion?
Yeah, I think I'll be ready. Yeah.
So we'll reverse it, Nasik. I'll open for you by closing this out. All right, this little portion out. And then
Okay.
you go forward with what you need to present.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
All right.
Okay, with that, we're going to end with Wholeness Family. Thank you for your attendance and your attention.